There are now a lot of people asking if I can make filmmaking tutorials, and teaching kind of scares me because I don't really know how to teach filmmaking. In this episode, I'd like to talk about 4 things that has a lot to do with filmmaking. In other videos, maybe we can cover some other aspects. In today's video, I want to cover story, cutting, color grading, and audio. I hate that last one. And it's really hard to teach all of these things because what do I teach about? So this part kind of confuses me, but instead I came up with a solution. Instead of doing a tutorial video, I want to explain my rituals in filmmaking. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Baris Alkis, and in this channel we talk about photography and filmmaking. I feel like this is the first filmmaking video that I've done in a while. I always indirectly talk about photography and filmmaking because I want to go deep into the philosophy of these two, because these are two things that are under the umbrella of creativity, and creativity has a lot to do with what's going on in your mind. But I get it, we want to talk about gear and techniques. But I find it kind of hard to talk about something very specific. Like if we were to do a color grading tutorial video, in that video I would just teach you how to color grade like me. Instead, I want to talk about the psychology of why I color grade in that way. And color grading is just one example. So I thought it would be the best to talk about my rituals when I do paid projects or stuff for my YouTube channel. Let's talk about coming up with story ideas. I have a few kind of short film attempts in this channel. Now they all have different objectives. Now there was one that I did a while ago about the city that I live in, Canada. I live in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So I made a whole little short film about the city that I live and really my experience with the city, which in turn it translates into a project that was aimed to be something personal, to tell you guys where I live and since how long I've been living here and etc. In order to find stories, there are a few things that I do. One of them is to disconnect from everything and just maybe listen to music. I like to listen to piano when trying to come up with new ideas. Apparently, piano really hits me. So what I do is I put on my headphones and listen to some piano. I might go for a walk or just lay down on the floor and just think of stuff. What happens is it gets me into emotional thinking, and then I kid you not, the ideas, the story ideas and the key points just come to me. It's so crazy. So my ritual with coming up with story ideas or creating a story itself is to disconnect, listen to some piano, and connect with myself and really feel grounded. Okay, so now let's talk about cutting footage. This is something that a lot of people don't actually like. And I think the reason for that is that we find it very repetitive. You almost watch the same thing over and over again. You keep cutting, going back and forth. You know what the worst thing about cutting is? When I make videos like this, I'll say something wrong and I'll cut it, but I'll re-say it. But sometimes I'll do it for the 3rd time. I'll re-say it for the 3rd time. And the 3rd time always sounds better. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of the first one, cut into the second one, and then to only discover that I said it again and it sounds better, so then I have to go back and delete the second try as well. That's the worst thing about cutting. But cutting for projects, for film projects, even for YouTube videos, I actually think I connect with the whole project when I'm in the cutting process. Because you're in the story and cutting the footage, there is a bit of an involvement in the story, and then what happens is, I'm not saying that you should keep on rewatching every single cut you do, but you know what I mean. So yeah, when I'm in the cutting process, I really get connected to the whole project a lot more. I give myself space to really think about how I can spice up this project. And with cutting, I like to cut and leave it there for a day, get back to it the next day and rewatch it again, see if there's anything wrong with the pacing. And this could be for a talking head video like this or a short film. I like to spend extra time in cutting if I have the time. It's not that hard to crush and edit under 6 hours and put it out in the world, but if I have the time, I'd rather take my time with it. Right now, I want to have my videos to have a specific pace, so I don't want anything that doesn't belong there. Now, on to something else that I really take my time with is color grading. Most of the projects that I create for this YouTube channel has a dark look. I want them to have a dramatic look, and I think color grading is a great tool for that. I think what we need to learn with color grading is why we color grade differently for each project. I think we need to realize the purpose behind color grading in a certain way. So the color grading really needs to go with the story. I think that's super important. Also, just a note, colors are very, very psychological. If you look at a certain color for like, I don't know, 4 hours, that color may not be the same color you saw in the beginning of those 4 hours. So with color grading, I really recommend taking breaks. That's what I do, revisiting your color grading, and I would suggest working with adjustment layers when it comes to color grading. It makes it easier to reverse the color grading and start from scratch if you need to. But interestingly, color grading has a very psychological aspect to the editor and to the viewer as well. So you want to take your time with color grading. As soon as you start overthinking about the color grading, give it a break, restart in a few hours, in 10 minutes, doesn't matter. And if you can give it a day before you put it out and revisit the color grading to see if you need to tweak anything, that's probably the best bet. That's my ritual when it comes to color grading. I take my time with it, just like everything else, except audio. I've been struggling with audio for a long time. Even for talking head videos like this, I keep switching my mic to a boom mic, to this condenser mic. So if you guys are enjoying the audio, if you can comment that would make my day. So audio recording is my opportunity. So I'm working on learning more about audio and mastering the audio as well. That's something that if you overdo, it quickly gets in your head. That's kind of the issue that I'm finding nowadays. I'll edit the audio, I'll master the audio, it'll be fine, but I'll keep on re-editing it, and then like you just keep on listening to it, and it just sounds good, but it actually sounds a lot worse than your first edit. So audio for me is a little iffy, except sound designing. Like I do enjoy sound designing, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I think it really makes any video, any film stand out a lot, especially if you have a lot of action going on in that B-roll segment with like a bunch of transitions and textures and stuff like that. I love adding sound design. I guess with sound design, the only kind of thing that I have that I try not to do is overdo it. I like to keep things nice and simple, and my typical ritual with that is doing it right before I finalize the project, because that's something that I can get really creative on, and if I do it in the beginning of the project, I'll spend a lot of time with it. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it gave you an insight on how I look at video and filmmaking in general. My biggest ritual is to connect with the story. Let story be the very fundamental that shapes everything else in the film. Make sure my color grading fits the story, make sure my cutting fits the pace of the story, and make sure my sound design is done properly without distracting or taking anything away from the story. And because of that, I find it really hard to make filmmaking tutorial videos and stuff. I've never been really good at that in this channel. If you guys want to learn anything specific, go ahead and comment down below. If it's something that I can teach, I would love to make videos about it. I'd love to get your insight on this whole topic. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next one.